No, sorry. Absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. You're watching episode 3 of the Horses to Follow series in preparation for the 2023 to 2024 National Hunt season. We cannot wait. We're the two most excited people in this whole world when talking about the jump season. And Andrew, we've had Galway. We've had some good winners at Galway. Did any of those really get the juices flowing towards the winter months?
Yeah, I think so. When you see the likes of the Galway Plate, the Galway Hurdle, the likes of Zarek the Brave that we'd seen for the majority of the winter season in juvenile hurdles go and make that step up off a big weight in the handicap hurdle. And of course, it couldn't have been Galway without one big winner for one big man. If I were a rich man.
If I were a rich man, for who trains that one?
It completely beats me. I don't know.
Did he feature in our last video?
He may have done.
Poor
and
man.
if they haven't seen that last video, should they watch it?
Yeah, they definitely should. If you haven't watched that last video, look away now, because I added Masaccio, Slade Steel, and then on LTR Plus, I added Ilvoire de Soir of the Harron Durham team. So they're my 6 so far. Who have you added?
I added My Immortal for the Barry Connell team, which we got a positive bulletin from Mikey O'Sullivan for. He's My Hero is my Paul Nolan nag to go to war with for the season coming, and wrapped up in May for Paul Nichols. I'm following a very close Sandown bumper form line, as you can tell from 10 Lengths Tom, and wrapped up in May, both featuring.
But if you do enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and get your comments down below. We love reading the comments. So many exciting comments about the upcoming season with horses to follow. Some interesting ones, some left field as well.
Much, yep.
And I have jotted a few down in the tracker. So if you want to help us out and you want to offer us your wisdom and your expertise with horses to follow, please do send them down, because they're actually really helpful.
I also have a question for the crowd, because I put up a tweet a few days ago. Me and you have debated something very recently about a certain horse.
Okay, this is good, because we did touch on him in the last episode.
We did touch about him. There's a horse called Ballyburn, who obviously won the Punches Down bumper that Slade Steel finished third in. A very eye-catching third as well, I must confess. But Ballyburn, Josh, where do you think he turns up at Cheltenham next year?
Ballyburn, Ballymore.
Fair enough. I think Ballyburn supreme. I put up a tweet up, and some people have told the two of us we're both wrong. It's Ballyburn for the Bartlett, for Ronnie Bartlett. AB.
No. Ronnie Bartlett loves the Ballymore. He won it with Simon Sig, and he fancies winning it again with Ballyburn.
I think also Ronnie Bartlett's actually having loose sweats about Kinbarra for the Albert Bartlett, so therefore that's the reason he's not going to go.
That is an interesting one. All I want to know is what your opinion is. Is Ballyburn good enough, to run at the Cheltenham Festival next year? Obviously, we've got a whole season ahead, and those people that are like, oh, you're getting far too carried away, genuinely click off this video. I don't want you to watch it.
Yeah, we are the carried away bunch.
You're not welcome here. If you've not already got what this channel is, then you never will. So please clear off and never return. But Ballyburn,
supreme, Ballymore, Bartlett,
or not good enough. You could say that. It would be an unpopular opinion, and you'd be wrong.
It's a wrong opinion.
It's a wrong opinion. But Ballyburn. So a couple of things I want you to do. I want a horse to follow, left field ideally, and Ballyburn, Ballymore, or Supreme, or Bartlett, or he's not good enough, or you're wrong. Okay, so let's kick on with things, and this is going to be from my side of things, just preparing you now. My 7th horse to follow is a Paul Nichols trained horse, and my 8th horse to follow is also a Paul Nichols trained horse. I can only apologise. My 8th...
No, can we please bring ourselves back to the last video, where you looked to me with steel in the eyes, like genuinely disappointed. The people want something different. They want something different. And what have you given them? A Barry Connell horse and a Paul Nolan horse. You've gone the next episode and put up 2 Paul Nichols nags.
Tune into LTR Ultra, it might be 3. But my 7th horse to follow is a horse called In the Waterside, probably one of Paul Nichols' more higher profile bumper winners last year, going novice hurdling. He went to Exeter on his debut last year and won very well. Beat a good horse of the Skeltons, then went to Sandown against some really good horses, 10 Lengths Tom, wrapped up in May, and went and won really impressively I don't think they thought he was that forward last year. I think they thought this lad is going to be our King George horse in 2 or 3 years' time. Then he showed ability that was slightly freakish for his size, winning those 2 bumpers. He was more forward, still babyish, mahoosive thing. I think he's going to be one of those horses where if he goes and runs, say, over 2 miles, he could easily feature in a Tolworth. He goes up in trip, he could easily be the shallow hurdle horse and follow the Brave Man's Game, the Stage Star and the Hermes Allen route. Connections believe that. And the reason why I think Connections believe that is because I caught up with Ellen McNeil, who is very, very excited about In the Waterside. He must be one you're looking maybe at graded level, grade 1 level?
I think he's...
Do you have those dreams?
Well, we have these dreams a lot, but they don't always come into play. But I'd say he's our most exciting horse going into the season. I think if you had to pick one, my money would be on him. He's actually in the top yard at Pools now with Pool.
And that means means something.
We've never had a horse in the top yard there. And Paul sent a pitch to our little group we have, and he was like, "Look where he is. He's in the number 1 box."
Yeah.
So I think Paul thinks the world of him, as do we. And yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing what he can produce.
He looked very, very special at Sandown, and we went to Paul's Yard this time last year for Let's Talk Racing, and you don't really appreciate how good and how much depth he's got, because you walk around the top yard, which is where you usually go at the start, and you're seeing all the superstars. Every single corner you turn, there's a 150 plus rated horse.
Yeah.
And then he's got his favourite youngsters at the front as well, bumper horses, and the fact that In the Waterside's in there is very exciting.
I know. It's, we couldn't quite believe it. We've waited all these years and we finally got one on the top yard. But we just hope he can stay sound. We had a really terrible season last season for injuries. We had about 6 legs, I think. So it just didn't go our way last season, and we're just hoping for a fresh start. You
bought an expensive horse called
Quebecois, yes. Yeah.
£320,000 at the sales. What's the plan with him? Where's he going to go?
So he's going to Nichols. Reason being, Paul was really keen to get him when we bought him in the ring, and also he was our most successful trainer last season. Yep. So it just made sense. And also, having horses in England means we can go and watch them more often and be there throughout their journeys more. And it's a horse we had our eye on for a long time prior to him going in the ring. We've got a really great relationship with Sean Doyle over in Ireland, Monbeg as he's known as, and I think that was actually on the same day that Seddon hacked up and won. So we kind of had this.
I didn't want to bring that one up.
It's fine. We're over it now. And I think we kind of had that aggression in us to kind of go for it. And we always bought him with a view to selling at least half. So I've got half pretty much licked up now. And it's another exciting one to look forward to for the season.
But ultimately, when you spend that amount of money on a point-to-point recruit, the whole racing world, the jumps racing fanatics like me and Andrew, and there's plenty of others, stand up and take note, and they're really excited about them. Is there a slight different pressure when they're, say, 320 grand compared to a Thunder Rock, who was 40?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, but you do want to keep them all on a level playing field, I guess. And
because ultimately they don't know their price tag.
Yeah, exactly. And you just do the best for the horse. So
but you do.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. We won't be nervous when he runs. But I think you do the best by the horse. We sent him to the best trainer. I think we've given him the best chance of showing what he's made of. And he's had a lovely summer at Paddy Brennan's. Paddy's funny. He sends some video updates across the summer of the horses, and he goes, "Please, can you find 10 more of these?" Yeah.
She said, "He's the Grade 1 hope."
I wish them very well. Clearly, 10 lengths Tom has improved since then. Wrapped up in May is still the nag for Delahaye and co.
But exactly, you like that bumper. So
he's a very good horse.
With the winner being so highly thought of, can only boost those horses
he's an
behind.
Incredibly good horse. Yeah, no, I do agree with that. And you'd have to think, probably based off what I've seen, you'd think he's probably more likely to go slightly up in trip, personally speaking.
I would say he could, and this is obviously premature, he could be a Corto Star horse if he stays sound down the line. That type, not Corto Star as in the Corto Star novices.
How much do you love kind of naming that sort of a name?
The Corto Star novices.
You have
chase.
a perverse pleasure with that sort of an affiliation.
No, not Corto Star.
It's like me desperately trying to find the reincarnation of Latest Exhibition. I will forever try to find it.
You know what you're doing here, and you know I didn't mean that. I meant Corto Star Novices Chase. He's that horse, I think, that this year could go and win a shallow hurdle. I think he could go and run in a Ballymore, go to Aintree, maybe win another Grade 1, and then next year, one of those English horses that you're just so excited to go chasing. The likes of, I know he's beaten at Aintree and Cheltenham, but Hermes Allen, I cannot wait to see him going chasing this year. Stay Away Faye, again, a really exciting novice chaser for Paul Nichols, and he consistently
Are
churns
you
them out.
genuinely losing sleep about Hermes Allen going novice chase?
I think if he jumps well, he's going to be really, really exciting.
Come on. You're better than that.
But
you're better than that.
I'm not.
You're really better than that.
I'm really not.
Well, I'm really excited to see Joy Machan eventually win a beginner's chase. It'll happen one day at the Stowe, perhaps, or something like that.
Would you go as far to say that Hermes Allen won't win a graded novice chase this season?
No, because he'll run in a tin pot race at Wincanter. He'll run in the Rising Star. Something like that. There's 3 runners. Sebastopol will somehow still be running, even though he's won a few races over fences now. There'll be 3 runners. We won't have heard of 2 of them, and he'll win at 1 to 6.
Possibly.
So you know exactly what you were getting into there.
I think that this in the waterside could be the real deal, and I'm looking forward to hearing your 7th horse to follow.
Well, my 7th horse to follow comes from the Gordon Elliott yard, which I'm surprised that you actually haven't named this horse, because it's the type of horse that in years gone by, if we're basing it on trends, you'd be all over. And it's Bective Stud owned, Gordon Elliott trained. It's a horse called Firefox, who I think, personally speaking,
I love this now.
Is Gordon Elliott's best novice hurdler to go to war with this year. I just think he's a really, really good horse. Look back at his career so far. He started off in a maiden hurdle, which was a little bit of a surprise, but he's a well-backed horse, even though he was in the second string colours of Bective Stud that day. He went off 15-8 favourite. He was ridden interestingly, I would have thought. You see the footage that when it gets to 2 out, he's still 20 lengths behind. He ends up running on very, very well. It gets beaten around 3 or 4 lengths into 4th that day. Spirited Legend ended up winning the race. For Henry de Bromhead, not a bad horse in his own right. Reverted back to bumper at Naas, which I was actually in attendance of. It was just shy of Christmas time. And I was interested because given the honour was running for Paul Nolan, who was an expensive point-to-point recruit. Firefox was in it, and a horse called Loughlin was in it. Ended up being a big tussle between Loughlin and Firefox. Loughlin just about got the better of him. I think Loughlin's not a horse to give up on this season. I think he's the type of Willie Mullins novice hurdler that will go well up in trip. He might be a Albert Bartlett type horse. I think he's a very strong stayer. And Firefox just ended up getting slightly out-battled, showed a little bit of immaturity, finished 2nd. Went to Navan on his 2nd start in bumpers, his 3rd start overall, and won very comfortably indeed. A really impressive performance. And then he went and beat Urnag. And you keep telling me Il Atlantique this, Il Atlantique that. I could give you 10 times that Firefox will run against Il Atlantique next season, and Firefox will win every time, because he's just feasibly, physically, in every sense, the best horse. He wasn't shown to best effect that day. He had to weave a little bit in and out because Chuktra's Glory was acting a little bit of the maggot under Willie Burke. He was going in and out, and Firefox was getting a lead from Il Atlantique. Il Atlantique is there on the snaff 2 furlongs out. Firefox flat to the boards. He's a horse that probably wants to go up in trip. Ends up outstaying him, out-battling him, worried him out of it. I look at Firefox, and you know what just screams in my head? He just wins the Lollers of Naas. I've just come down on it, and this is where we actually started our debate the other day, because you told me that Ballyburn wins the Lollers of Naas. I can't see that happening, because I think Ballyburn will start at 2 miles and will stay at 2 miles, potentially until Cheltenham, and then may go up and trip like Sir Gerhard did. But I think you look at Firefox, you look at Gordon Elliott's record in the race, will he not beat Sherry Ripe to win that Grade 1 in the first week of January? I think Firefox is the horse to get on side with this year. But I've rambled on long enough. We need somebody that's going to tell you the facts, the figures, and actually tell you a bit of sense. It's Jake Price.
Yeah, well, I have to say, Andrew, this seems much more like a Josh pick than one of yours, but nevertheless, Firefox is definitely an interesting horse. And I actually want to start at the 2021 Derby sale, where he was picked up for a huge sum of €280,000. And that is a lot of money for a horse who has zero prior racecourse experience, which is definitely what counted against him on his debut, where he ran in a 2.5 mile maiden hurdle at Navan. And it was just all too much too soon for him. The leader set a frantic gallop, meaning he was 20 lengths behind, turning for home. He ran green, he didn't jump that well. And at that point, Jack Kennedy really just had to school him home and teach him on the job, which he did quite well because he ended up coming home for fourth, not being that far. So there are positives to take, but I think the main takeaway is that going back into the bumper sphere like you're allowed to do in Ireland was definitely the right course of action for him, because he really needs to gain more experience. And you saw throughout the season that he really did do that, going from second to first and first. And that Fairy House win on pretty brutal ground really showed the type of horse he is, where he hits a bit of a flat spot, but then once the jockey gets into him, he really seems to find under pressure, and he's finished out his race brilliantly all the way to the line. So I think he's a horse definitely wants to go back up in trip to 2.5 miles, and I think he should be towards the upper echelon of Gordon Elliott's novice hurdlers this season.
I've listened to Jake. I've literally just put up a nag.
I really like Firefox. He, I think, was one of the most expensive store horses. I think he sold for 280 grand. And they thought he was an absolute champion before anyone had even sat on him. So he clearly has all the physical attributes you could ever dream of in a young horse. I thought the revert to bumpers was strange after going hurdling, must admit. And I did think that first run was strange. I don't think he is...
We could sit here in silence all evening. We genuinely could. Because you're I've never heard the world about Il Atlantique. You're telling me this, that and t'other. He's just not as good as him. He's just not. Just admit he's not as good.
I think he's less forward than Firefox.
Oh, give over.
I think Il Atlantique...
This horse is no more forward than anything here. Did you not see him on hurdling debut? Green as grass against Lough Lynn. Green as grass. He's learning on the job. He's had a little bit of hurdling experience. He goes out, wins his maiden hurdle, easy. He goes to Navan, wins the 2.5 mile Grade 2 race, easy. Goes to the Laurels and Ace, wins. Then goes to the Ballymore, good win.
I think he's a very exciting horse. I think Willie might have 3 or 4 better than him that could run in the Laurels and Ace.
I don't disagree that Willie possibly has something better than him, but... will we see that horse in the Laurels and Ace? I'd be surprised, because he's usually slower to start with his novice hurdlers than Gordon is. And secondly, if you think one of those 3 or 4 horses is Il Atlantique, you really need your head examined.
Did I say that? I don't think I did.
No, but you're implying. You're implying.
Not sure I am.
You are implying.
My 8th horse to follow this season is a horse trained by Paul Nichols. Shock. No. So, okay, I'll come clean. Do you want me to come clean?
Well, you're going to come clean one way or the other here.
I had a conversation with Paul Nichols this week. And I asked about a couple of his young horses, and he was very complimentary on some, not as complimentary on others, which surprised me. And the next horse I'm going to put up is a horse that he obviously clearly likes. If not, I wouldn't be doing it now. And that is a horse called Fireflyer for the Dynamite Dollars colours. Very, very, very keen on this lad. He thinks that he could be in his top 3 novice hurdlers, along with In the Waterside and Captain Teague. Firefly went to Ascot on debut and won a bumper very, very impressively. Looked professional that day, and went through with it well, hitting the line really strong. I was very, very encouraged. He's an enormous beast, like many of these Paul Nichols 3 mile chasers down the line. And then he went to the Newbury listed bumper, which I talked about in the last video with Masaccio, and ran 7th. He didn't run very well. He was beaten 15 lengths. But I've gone back and I've watched that race, and he is just enormous compared to these horses. The ground was rattling quick. Paul did say that in hindsight they should never have run him. It was far too quick ground for a horse his size and his inexperience. He thinks that he could be a Grade 1 horse. I think he'll start over 2 miles. I think he'll inevitably go up in trip. and Firefly, to me, looked just like a big lolloping. He looked very similar, and I'm not just saying this because I have a love affair with Brave Man's game, but he's a very, very similar way of going about things. Big lolloping, looks quite like him, seems to do everything that Lorcan Williams wanted him to do. Harry Cobden was on Meatloaf in the same race. I don't think that'll be the case next year. I think Harry Cobden will almost certainly be riding Firefly on his starts. Must admit, have nicked a bit of that from Paul, but he wanted the LTR viewers to be following a horse that he genuinely believes is a Grade 1 horse, and that's Firefly.
So, just to conclude, you're a Paul Nichols fanboy. You're a fraud of personal opinions. A felon of nicking Paul Nichols' horse to follow. And apparently we're to back this horse because he was tailed off in the Newbury bumper.
No, he ran very well for a long time. He just didn't particularly travel great in the straight, and when they quickened, they were just too forward for him.
I'm just remembering a couple of episodes ago your level of disgust when I was putting up horses from Barry Collins Paul. And I've put in the hard yards here, trying to find horses off the beaten track that people may not have heard of, may not have seen, all of this. And yet, why would I do that? I actually should have just called Barry up and gone, Barry, do you have a horse to follow? He goes, Marine Nationale. I should have put that up.
Don't think it's as similar as putting up a first-time bumper winner that was tailed off in his last start.
He wasn't even selected by the stable jockey over Meatloaf.
No, not at the time. I think Meatloaf is a good horse.
Oh, give over. Like, you're kidding nobody now. At least live and die with the lie. Like, Meatloaf. No, come on.
I do think
he's a very average beast.
Okay, so far I've put up 2 Paul Nichols horses. I've actually gone to the efforts of speaking to the trainer and to get his honest thoughts about what he thinks about these horses. I've given the LTR viewers everything that I've been told, and I've just been told these 2 are crap.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm not expecting... You can come at me with all your little jibes about this, that and t'other, and yet I'm just waiting now. The news on the street, third time lucky, goes to Fergal O'Brien. Is he in next week's episode, just for viewers?
Well, no, to be honest, not many horses leave Skeltons and improve, so... I can't see that happening at Fergal's.
I can't wait for him to be your first bet of the year. The Grand Daniel, it was always the plan.
No,
he'd go to Fergal's, Paddy would be on him, and he'll win.
Is there a race at Chepstow for him?
Well, there may as well.
There may as well be, yeah.
Or maybe the October meeting.
Maybe the October meeting. Your 8th horse to follow, please.
Well,
No, sorry. Absolute rubbish.
Yeah, absolute rubbish. Well, see, because I heard that you were going for 2 Paul Nichols horses, so I actually said, well, your man's actually... He's putting the blind over me here. So therefore, he won't have any issue with me going back to heavy roots myself. I've covered John McConnell in the first episode. Covered Barry Connell in the second. Mm-hmm. Paul Nolan in the second.
Yeah.
Who's waiting to come in the third? If you had a wild stab guess.
I would go Oliver McKiernan.
Oh, well, ding, ding, ding. Here we are. Calanese Star is my 8th to follow for the season ahead. Horse that actually had a few decent enough pieces of form to his name. Started off in a bumper. The same bumper won by the likes of Bob Ollinger, Journey with Me, Tully Hill this year. He won it 2 years ago by 15 lengths. I don't hear anyone talking about him because he's not in Rob Corr's colours. He's not in Cheveley Park's colours. People don't want to talk about it. He beat Monbeg Park, a very good horse in his own right, by 15 lengths. Went out and won his maiden hurdle at Goran Park. Jumped quite nicely this day as well, I must say. Over 2 miles, which would be an inadequate trip. Beat Pink in the Park, who's a steady away mare. She's nothing out of the ordinary, but she's not a bad mare to beat at the same stage. Gave her £7 and won cosily enough. And it slightly went off the rails from there. Was sent off favourite for the Limerick Grade 2 novice hurdle over 3 miles at Christmas time, a race that has chucked up plenty of Albert Bartlett potential horses in years gone by. And was given a patient ride, which I couldn't quite understand. I know it was the first time he was going up to 3 miles, but he looked like a stare one way or the other, and they kind of rode him for speed, and it ended up backfiring. He didn't run very well. And then the most bizarre piece of campaigning I've seen in a long while, he then went to the Laurels of Naas around a week and a half later, was nowhere behind Champ Kyle. He may still be found out in the Naas field. He's still going. But then he was given a bit of time off, and the fact that he had a tongue strap next time out at Punchestown would give me a slight suggestion that he may have needed a bit of tweaking with his wind, and ran a nice enough race behind Gaelic Warrior in the Grade 1 3-mile novices hurdle, ended up finishing 5th. When you see them coming down to the second last, which is the one before they turn into the straight, he was actually well with all the principles and ended up fluffing his lines there, and he was on the back foot from there on in. Gaelic Warrior was obviously an incredibly impressive winner of that race, but he's only just above 10 lengths behind Affordale Fury, who'd become second in the Albert Bottle the time before. He was in amongst decent horses in his own right, and I'm not putting up as a Grade 1 horse by any stretch of the imagination, because he isn't, but he's the type of horse, given that he's gone to Goran Park twice, in his 2 times in rules under heavy ground, he's won both impressively. He's the type of horse that could land a good novices handicap or a very good handicap in times to come on that type of ground. Goran Park, Navan, Naas, that sort of kind of December, January, February time. I think he'll start off in a beginner's chase. He's been quite good fresh before, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was quite close in that type of a race. And I just think he's got a bit of quality, and I don't think how his season ended up transpiring is a reflection on the horse, because he was given lofty targets for a horse that's probably, if we're being honest with ourselves, he's probably maybe a 140, 150 horse, and he was being pitched into Grade 1 races, and he's not going to win a Grade 1. I completely get that. I still think he's a really nice prospect, and I was thinking, I've given Jake Firefox. I've also given Jake a few hospital passes on these episodes before, especially in the Ultra videos. So I thought I couldn't give him another hospital pass, and I knew the man that would dig me out of the mire. There was only one man I could turn to. It was Tipstar winner. I'm not still jealous that he won Tipstar and I didn't. I'm not. But he was the Tipstar winner, Dan Overall.
So Jake gets the Gordon Elliott, Willie Mullins trade, potential Grade 1 horses. I get the Ollie McKinnon novice chaser, who's been beat a combined 157 lengths on his last 3 starts. But for as much as I jest, I actually do have time for the horse. He looks to be an interesting chaser in the making. His dam won over fences. He won a point beating Rare Edition, who's proved to be pretty useful for Charlie Longston. And we know he did make a very, very telling impression not too long ago. You go back to that 2-mile-2 bumper at Goran. He was mightily impressive beating Monbeg Park that day. Our races normally produces a useful type, the likes of Bob Ollinger, Journey With Me in recent years, Tully Hill last season. He looked to be a useful recruit for the Ollie McKinnon yard that day, and he made a really good start to Life Over Hurdles, I thought, beating Pink in the Park, who's a pretty decent mare in her own right. That was over 2 miles, and very much like his bumper, that was at Goran Park on heavy ground, which really does seem to be key to him. It all kind of went a bit downhill after that. He just never looked happy at Limerick on his next start, giving a bit more of a negative ride that day, but never really got into the race. And then in the Lawlers and Naas, he weakened very tamely, having gone pretty okay to a point. So it was encouraging to see him run a lot better at Punchestown over 3 miles in the Grade 1 there. The ground would have been on the quick side for him that day. Tongue tie was back on, so maybe that indicated a slight wind issue in the Lawlers and Naas, and that was off the back of 108-day break as well. So that was a much improved performance, and he does seem to go well fresh, this horse. So I think if we're looking towards this season, you'd be looking towards beginner's chase on heavy ground. A track like Goran seems to suit him very well. I think 2.5 miles on soft to heavy ground would be his ideal conditions at this stage. Shouldn't have much of an issue staying 3 miles in time, but on testing conditions, 2.5 should be about right for now. And while I don't think he's going to be quite up to Grade 1 level as a novice chaser, you can certainly see him running in some of those really good handicaps in time. The likes of the Firestes, you'd think, is a race that could really suit him. That is always tends to be run on really testing conditions. If not this year, maybe 18 months' time, that could be a target for him. But looks an interesting recruit to fences, Andrew. I wish you all the best.
There we go. 4 more horses to follow. We're now up to 8. If you want to go and see our 9th horse to follow, go and subscribe to LTR Ultra. You can do so by clicking on our channel on a laptop, a desktop, anything like that. Finding our channel, clicking join on our page, and finding all the information there. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button. Remember, Ballyburn, Ballymore or Supreme, and a rogue horse to follow. It's much appreciated. We hope to see you soon. We hope to see you next week. And ta-ra.